My name is Olivia Thompson. I am 35 years old. 8 years ago, my mother in law, Rachel Carter, convinced my husband that I was secretly siphoning money from his family inheritance to support a double life. She presented forged documents and bank records she had carefully planted over months. My husband asked me to pack a bag and leave our home that same evening. But today, we sat in a lawyer's office in Manchester, New Hampshire as new evidence surfaced, showing her pattern of manipulation. My hands shook with rage, but my resolve was steel. I was finally ready to make her answer for the lies she had told about me. If you have ever had an in-law who crossed every line to destroy your peace hit like and comment the most shocking thing your mother-in-law ever pulled, I read them all, and it helps knowing I am not alone. The lawyer's office smelled faintly of coffee and old paper, but I barely noticed. My husband sat beside me, gripping my hand tighter than usual. Across the heavy oak table sat Sophia Reynolds, our new attorney, who my best friend Megan Bennett had recommended after the latest blow-up. Megan had been the one who warned me years ago that my mother-in-law was not the sweet woman she pretended to be in public. She sat in the waiting area outside as moral support ready to step in if things got ugly. It all started not long after we got married 8 years ago. I came from a regular working family in the next town over nothing fancy. My mother-in-law made it clear from day one that I was not the daughter-in-law she had pictured for her only son. At first, it was small comments during Sunday visits to their house in the suburbs. She would smile sweetly and say things like, "How nice it must be for me to finally have access to a better lifestyle." My father-in-law Daniel would chuckle awkwardly and change the subject, but I saw the way his jaw tightened. He never fully backed her up in those moments. Then the real trouble began when my husband's grandmother passed and left a substantial inheritance that included a family trust. My mother-in-law became obsessed with controlling how it was used. She insisted we use part of it to buy a bigger house closer to her. When I suggested we wait and focus on our careers first, she started her campaign. One evening, 8 years ago, right after we had been married less than a year, she came over unannounced while my husband was still at work. She sat me down in our living room and told me flat out that she knew I was after the money and that she would not let me ruin her family. I laughed it off at first, thinking it was a bad joke, but then she pulled out printed emails that looked like they came from my account, discussing transfers of nearly $38,000 to an unknown account. I had never seen them before. "You think you are clever," she said with that cold smile, "but I see right through you. My son deserves better than a gold digger who pretends to love him." Her words hit like ice water. I demanded to know what she was talking about. She just shook her head and said she had proof and would show my husband everything when he got home. When my husband walked in that night, my mother-in-law was waiting with the folder. She laid it all out for him, her voice full of concern and disappointment. She claimed I had been moving money out of the trust account she co-managed and covering my tracks. My husband looked at me with confusion, turning to hurt. I tried to explain they were fake, but the documents looked so real. He asked me to stay at Megan's for a few days while he sorted it out. The betrayal stung deep. Megan was furious when I showed up at her apartment with a suitcase. She had never trusted my mother-in-law. "That woman has been jealous of you since day one," she said, "because you make my husband happy in a way she never could control." Megan helped me hire a basic accountant to check the accounts. It took weeks, but we found discrepancies that pointed back to my mother-in-law herself. But back then, my husband was still under her influence. It took almost 2 months and a near breakdown in our marriage before he started questioning her story. My father-in-law eventually pulled him aside one evening and told him quietly that he had seen my mother-in-law acting strange with bank papers. It was not a full defense, but it planted a seed. My husband apologized and asked me to come home. We reconciled, but the damage was done. I never fully trusted the family dynamic again. Fast forward to last month. My mother-in-law had been pushing harder than ever for us to sign over management of the remaining trust to her. She claimed it was for tax reasons and family security. My husband was starting to waver because of pressure at his job as a project manager. I stood firm. That is when the latest incident happened. I was driving home from work at the tech company where I am a customer success manager when my phone rang. It was my mother-in-law. Her voice was sharp as she accused me of turning my husband against her. "You have always been a problem," she hissed. "I should have stopped this marriage years ago." She kept going, yelling about how I was ungrateful and how she wished my husband had chosen someone else. I was so distracted trying to calm her down that I swerved and clipped another car. The accident was minor, but I ended up in the emergency room with whiplash. My husband rushed there worried sick. When I told him what caused the crash, he finally looked angry at her instead of defensive. He called my father-in-law right then. My father-in-law's reaction was different this time. Instead of his usual quiet deflection, he raised his voice on the speakerphone and said he was tired of the constant drama my mother-in-law created. It was the first time I heard him push back so directly. Now, here we were in Sophia Reynolds' office. Sophia had spent the last 3 weeks digging into old bank records and digital footprints. She had found patterns of small transfers over years that matched the forged documents from before. Megan sat in the waiting area outside as moral support ready to testify if needed. Sophia slid a folder across the table. "The evidence is strong," she said, "but we need to be careful. This could get ugly if your mother-in-law decides to fight dirty again." Just as I nodded, the door to the conference room opened. My mother-in-law walked in unannounced, her face set in that familiar mask of righteous anger. She had somehow found out about the meeting. "What lies are you spreading about me now, Olivia?" she demanded, her eyes locked on mine. My husband stood up. "Mom, this is not the time." But she ignored him and turned to me with venom in her voice. "You think you can take everything from this family? I know what you really are." The tension in the room thickened instantly. I felt my pulse racing. Whatever she had planned next, I knew this confrontation was far from over. And then she pulled out her own envelope and slammed it down on the table with a sharp smack that made everyone jump. Her eyes locked straight on mine, full of that cold satisfaction I had come to dread over the years. "Go ahead, Olivia," she said, her voice dripping with sarcasm. "Open it. Or are you afraid everyone will finally see the truth about what kind of woman you really are?" I stared at the thick packet, my stomach twisting into knots. My husband squeezed my hand tighter, but I could feel the hesitation in his grip, like he was torn between defending me and wondering if she had something real this time. Sophia leaned forward, her tone steady and professional. "Mrs. Carter, this is a private meeting. If you have evidence to share, you can schedule an appointment like any other party involved." My mother-in-law ignored her completely, sliding the papers out and fanning them across the table like she was dealing a winning hand in poker. "These are the real bank records," she continued, her words sharp as knives. "They show you moved $45,000 out of the family trust 2 months ago, right after I suggested we review the accounts. You did it through some fake vendor account you set up. My son deserves to know he is married to a calculated opportunist who only cares about the money." The accusation hung in the air like smoke choking the room. I felt my face heat up, but I kept my voice level. "Those are lies. I have never touched that trust without both of us agreeing." She laughed, a short, bitter sound that cut deep. "Oh, please. You have always been jealous of what this family built. From the day you married my son, you saw dollar signs. I tried to warn him, but he was too blinded by your little act. Now look where we are. You nearly caused a car accident because you were too busy yelling at me on the phone, all while hiding your schemes. What kind of wife does that?" My husband finally spoke up, his voice low but strained. "Mom, that is enough. We came here to get facts, not more accusations." But she turned on him next, her eyes flashing. "Facts. The facts are that she has been draining us slowly for years, and you refuse to see it because you feel guilty for marrying beneath you." Her words landed like slaps, each one aimed to twist the knife in old wounds. I could see my husband's jaw clench the way he always did when she pushed too far. Sophia jumped in, flipping through the papers with a quick scan. "These transfers do not match any records we have access to. The routing numbers look altered. We will need forensic analysis on these documents immediately." Before anyone could respond, my mother-in-law pulled out her phone and dialed my father-in-law on speaker. He answered after 2 rings, his voice tired but clear. Rachel, what is going on? I told you to stay out of this. She did not waste a second. Daniel, they are trying to cut me out of the trust discussions again. Olivia is sitting here with her fancy lawyer claiming I am the one lying. You need to tell them the truth about what you have seen. My father-in-law's reaction came fast and hard, nothing like his usual quiet deflections from years past. His voice rose on the line, sharp with frustration. This stops right now, Rachel. I have watched you manufacture problems for 8 years straight, and I am done enabling it. If those documents are real, prove it without the theatrics. Otherwise, leave them alone and let my son and Olivia handle their own marriage. The room went dead silent for a beat. Even my mother-in-law looked stunned. It was the first time I had heard him speak to her like that in public, no awkward chuckle or subject change to smooth things over. He sounded genuinely fed up, like something had finally snapped inside him after years of watching her stir the pot. My best friend Megan must have heard the raised voices from the waiting area because she pushed the door open and stepped inside without knocking. Everything okay in here? I could hear the tone from down the hall. She shot my mother-in-law a hard look, the kind that said she had been waiting for this moment for a long time. Megan had stood by me through the first round of accusations 8 years ago, and she had never held back her opinion. My mother-in-law recovered quickly, turning her venom toward Megan now. This is family business, not for outsiders. But since you are here, maybe you can explain why you helped Olivia hide those early transfers. I always knew you two were thick as thieves. Megan did not flinch. The only thing I have helped hide is how much damage you have caused. Olivia has proof from our old accountant that the discrepancies started long before she had any access to the accounts. Those were your withdrawals. Rachel funneled through the same vendor names you are accusing her of using now. The evidence Megan referenced came from a quiet investigation we had done 4 years ago, when things had simmered down, but never really stopped. My boss, Amanda Torres, had even gotten involved back then after I missed too many deadlines at work from the stress. She had connected me with a discreet financial advisor who flagged the odd patterns without alerting the family. I had kept it all under wraps to avoid more drama, but now it felt like the right time to bring it forward. My husband looked between all of us, his face pale. I need to see everything. The old records, the new ones, all of it. Mom, if you are wrong about this, she cut him off with a wave of her hand. If I am wrong, my son, you have always been too soft. She has you wrapped around her finger just like she planned from the beginning. I only wanted what was best for you, and this is how you repay me, by siding with her over your own mother. Sophia cleared her throat, trying to regain control. We can schedule a full forensic audit of the trust. That would clear this up once and for all, but it needs to happen without interference. My mother-in-law stood up abruptly, gathering her papers with jerky movements. An audit? Fine. But do not think this ends here. I have more proof coming, things that will show exactly who Olivia really is. She paused at the door, her eyes boring into mine one last time. You may have fooled my son, but you will never fool the rest of this family. As the door clicked shut behind her, the room exhaled. My husband rubbed his temples, looking exhausted. Megan gave my shoulder a quick squeeze. She is escalating because she knows the audit will expose her. We need to move fast. Sophia nodded, already making notes. I will file for the audit today. In the meantime, I suggest we pull all joint statements and freeze any questionable accounts until we have clarity. I felt a small spark of hope for the first time in weeks. Maybe this time the truth would stick. But then my phone buzzed on the table with an incoming text from an unknown number. I glanced down and my blood ran cold. The message read, "Stop the audit or everyone finds out what you did with the missing $67,000 last year." I have screenshots. My hands started to shake as I showed the screen to my husband. He read it once, then twice, his face hardening in a way I had never seen before. "This has to be her," he muttered. "Or someone helping her?" Megan leaned in, her eyes wide. "We need to trace that number right now." Sophia was already reaching for her laptop. "Forward it to me. If this is new evidence being manufactured, it could be used against her in court. The image loaded on my screen, and my stomach dropped like a stone. It was a screenshot of what looked like an email from my work account at the tech company dated 11 months ago, detailing a transfer of $67,000 to a personal account I had never seen before, with a note attached that read, "This should cover our fresh start once my husband finally wakes up." The forged signature at the bottom even mimicked my usual sign-off. My hands went cold as I held the phone out for my husband to see. Sophia leaned in immediately, her eyes narrowing at the screen. "This is manufactured. The metadata on these kinds of fakes always gives them away if we dig deep enough." Before I could even catch my breath, my phone rang again. It was my mother-in-law. I answered on speaker so everyone could hear my voice steady but my pulse hammering. She did not wait for a greeting. "I see you got my little gift," she said, her tone laced with that familiar cold satisfaction. "Now you understand. I have more where that came from. Stop pushing for this ridiculous audit, Olivia, or the next one goes straight to my son's boss and every family member we have. They will all know exactly what kind of schemer you are." My husband's face flushed with anger. "Mom, this has gone too far. You cannot keep doing this." She laughed sharply, cutting him off. "Oh, my son, you still defend her. After everything I have shown you over the years, she has been playing you for a fool since the day she said yes to that ring. I only wanted to protect what your grandmother built for this family, and she has been chipping away at it piece by piece." Megan stepped closer, her voice firm. "Rachel, we have our own records showing those transfers originated from accounts you control. This ends when the audit proves it." My mother-in-law's voice turned venomous. "Megan, stay out of my family's business. You have always encouraged her nonsense. If you want to help tell your little friend to back off before I make sure her precious job at the tech company hears about her side activities." I felt the words land like punches, each one designed to isolate me further. But this time, I refused to shrink. "You are the one who has been manipulating the trust for years," I said. "We are done letting you control us." She hung up without another word, but not before sending one final text. "Think about it. One more step and your whole world sees the proof." Sophia immediately forwarded everything to her forensic team. "We need to bring in an independent financial advisor right away. I have someone perfect for this." She called Michael Hayes, a forensic accountant she had worked with before. He agreed to join us virtually within the hour, reviewing the documents on screen while we waited. Michael Hayes appeared on the laptop, his calm, professional voice cutting through the tension. "Based on the preliminary scan of the screenshots you sent, the email headers show inconsistencies with your company's server. This was created externally. I can have a full report by tomorrow." The revelation gave me a flicker of relief, but my mother-in-law was not finished. She called my father-in-law, Daniel, right there on speaker again, her voice rising. "Daniel, you have to talk some sense into your son. Olivia is dragging us all through the mud with this audit nonsense." My father-in-law's reaction was immediate and different this time. Instead of his old habit of quiet deflection, he interrupted her sharply. "Rachel, enough. I have seen the bank statements myself now, and the patterns match what you have been doing, not Olivia. I am not covering for this anymore." His voice carried real edge, like years of watching her schemes had finally boiled over into something he could no longer ignore. My mother-in-law sputtered. "You are taking her side after everything he did not back down. This is not about sides, it is about facts. I will not let you destroy my son's marriage over your suspicions." The call ended abruptly, but the damage was done. My husband looked shell-shocked, the weight of his father's words sinking in. Megan squeezed my shoulder. "This is good. He is finally seeing it." To make sure we had every angle covered, Sophia suggested bringing in one more person who could provide context. I reached out to my cousin Natalie Brooks, who lived nearby and had occasionally helped with family financial paperwork years ago. Natalie arrived at the office 20 minutes later, her face serious. She had never been close to my mother-in-law, and she confirmed something we had not expected. "I saw your mother-in-law at the bank last spring, withdrawing cash from the trust account and depositing it into a personal one. She told the teller it was for my husband." but I knew it was not. I should have said something sooner. Natalie Brooks's statement added another layer of proof. Michael Hayes nodded on the screen. This corroborates the discrepancies. Combined with the forged email metadata, we have a strong case that the documents were manufactured to discredit Olivia. The next 2 days blurred into a frenzy of meetings and document reviews. My mother-in-law tried one last desperate move. She showed up at my husband's workplace unannounced, telling his boss, Amanda Torres, that I had been using company resources for personal schemes. Amanda Torres called me immediately afterward, her voice steady but concerned. Olivia, I know this is family drama, but I cannot have accusations like that affecting the team. Handle it quickly. I felt the humiliation burn, but it also hardened my resolve. We scheduled a final family meeting at a neutral conference room near Sophia's office. My mother-in-law arrived with her own stack of papers, eyes blazing. "You think you can humiliate me like this?" she said the moment she sat down, turning straight to me. "I built this family trust. You came in and tried to tear it apart. My son, if you go through with this audit, you are choosing her over everything I have sacrificed for you." My husband stood his ground. "Mom, the evidence shows you created those documents. The transfers you accused Olivia of making were actually yours." She leaned forward, her voice low and cutting. "You will regret this. I have spent years trying to protect you from her influence, and this is how you repay me, by believing her lies over your own mother." My father-in-law, Daniel, cut in again, his tone firm. "Rachel, stop. I have watched you do this for 8 years, and I am finished enabling it. The audit will happen, and we will all live with the results." The preliminary audit findings came in the following week. Michael Hayes presented them clearly. The trust had been mismanaged, with nearly $42,000 in unexplained withdrawals traced directly to accounts my mother-in-law controlled. The forged emails and screenshots were confirmed as fabrications created on her personal computer. No charges were filed because my husband chose not to pursue criminal action, but the damage was irreversible. In the end, we kept our names clear. The trust was restructured under new oversight, and my husband and I regained full control of our portion. But the cost was steep. Legal fees and the audit ate up almost $29,000 of the remaining funds. My mother-in-law refused any responsibility, and the family rift became permanent. My father-in-law, Daniel, quietly told us he would stay in touch, but the tension with my mother-in-law meant we could not visit together anymore. My husband and I decided to move to a smaller place across town, putting physical distance between us and the constant drama. My husband stood by me through it all, but the months of doubt had left scars. Some nights, I caught him staring at old family photos with a sadness I could not fix. We chose each other, but we lost the easy family gatherings, the casual support, the sense of belonging that had once felt natural. I kept my job at the tech company, and Amanda Torres even gave me a small promotion for handling the stress so well. Megan and Natalie stayed close, true allies who had seen me through the worst. Michael Hayes sent a final report with a note saying cases like this reminded him why he did this work. Looking back now, I see how my mother-in-law's deep resentment had poisoned everything from the start. She never accepted me, and her need to control the family money turned into years of calculated attacks. I chose myself in the end, setting boundaries that protected my peace even if it meant walking away from half the family I had married into. The victory felt partial because the trust we lost in each other and in the larger family could never fully return. But I slept better, knowing I was no longer carrying the weight of her accusations. Thank you for listening to my story. If you have ever had an in-law whose control nearly broke your marriage, what did you do to finally set the boundary that stuck? Drop it in the comments. I read every single one,